Why are two mouse called mice but two house called houses? Let me explain. It's to do with Old English. You see, there are three main categories of words: neutral, masculine, and feminine. Today, languages like French and German still have these different categories, but the New English is fully neutral. In Old English though, house was a neutral noun, whereas mouse was a feminine noun. The feminine noun went through something called the I mutation, which caused the plural of these nouns to sound more Eli and adopt an I. These only occurred with the gendered nouns, and the neutral ones, like house, just had an S added on to the end. Why is the number 13 unlucky? It's all to do with mythology. You see, Norse mythology states that the trickster god Loki crashed a party of 12 other gods, which brought the attendance to 13. Loki then tricked the blind god Hoder into killing his brother Balder. The number 13 is also rooted in Christianity, as Judas was the 13th person to Jesus' last party, and he was the one that got Jesus killed. This is the Manhattan ant. Yes, I know the name's corny, but this ant only lives between the 63rd and 76th streets in Manhattan. The ant's diet mainly consists of corn syrup. Now that's corny. The ant is a breed of the Lasius imaginatus, which mainly came from Europe. What was the largest concert in history? Well, the fifth largest was the Monsters of Rock concert in 1991. It had to be hosted at an airfield to fit the 1.6 million people that turned up. This was small compared to the Bastille Day 1990 concert and the Copacabana 1993 and 1994 concerts. The second largest concert in history was the 850th anniversary of Moscow concert in 1997. Of course, all of these are tiny compared to the largest concert in history, which was the Copacabana New Year's concert in 1994 and 1995. It was a New Year's concert on the Copacabana beach in Rio de Janeiro, and it attracted a whopping 4.2 million people. Over 600 dogs have committed suicide off of this bridge. But why is that the case? Constructed in 1895, the Overton Bridge in Scotland is known for having dogs jump off it and into the gorge below. The dogs only jump off of one side, and all reports have occurred on a sunny day. Furthermore, if the dogs don't die from the initial fall, then they will climb back up and simply try again. But why do they do this? Maybe they are jumping after the baby that got thrown off the bridge in 1994. But the reports were coming in before that, so some say the dogs smell rats and minks that live on that side of the bridge, and they just run over to catch them. Some also say that the sunlight causes an optical illusion, basically having the same effects as the previous theory. Here's why the imperial system is hot garbage. Get this, a pound is the measure of 7,000 Troy grains, and a yard is the length from King Henry I's nose to the thumb on his outstretched arm. A gallon, well, let's not go on about that. The metric system just makes infinitely more sense. 1 meter is 1/10,000,000th of the radius of the Earth passing through Paris, and a centimeter is a tenth of this meter. A liter is 10 centimeters times 10 centimeters times 10 centimeters of water, which is determined to weigh a kilogram. These are the deadliest apex predators in the world. The Komodo dragon is the largest living lizard on Earth and can be massive. Their saliva contains toxic bacteria that can kill anything within hours. Similar to a Komodo dragon is the saltwater crocodile. These can grow between 3 to 5 meters in length and can weigh as much as a car. This doesn't stop them from being powerful swimmers, much like the killer whale. These are the most powerful apex predators in the world, as they hunt basically anything. Seals, dolphins, and even sharks. They weigh just over 5 cars, which is kinda scary. Who got struck by lightning the most? Meet Roy Sullivan. In April 1942, he was a park ranger who was taking shelter in a newly built fire lookout tower when suddenly the building was struck by lightning 8 times. Fire started to spread and he fled the building, but unfortunately he got hit by one of these bolts of lightning. This started his history of getting struck by lightning, where he was struck 6 more times throughout the 1970s. People even started to fear him, like when he was helping his wife hang the clothes on the clothesline and she ended up getting struck by lightning. This car costs $28 million. It's the Rolls-Royce Boat Tail, a car that was inspired by the yachts of the 1920s and 1930s. Everything is advanced. It comes with a color-matched watch, the speaker system uses the floor of the car for resonance, and the back of the car has an entire picnic setup. Only 3 of these cars have been made, but I mean, you can buy an entire jet for that price. Dolphins can have names for one another. Dolphins communicate using whistles and clicks, and studies have shown that each bottlenose dolphin has its own pitched E sound that's basically its own voice. Other dolphins then imitate the sound to give the dolphin its very own name. Where is the most remote place on Earth? It is a point in the Pacific Ocean that is so remote that orbiting space stations can be closer to it than land is. Point Nemo is around 2,700 kilometers from land, and space stations can be as close as 400 kilometers. On the topic of space stations, Point Nemo is actually where they go when they're too old to be serviceable. There are hundreds of dead space stations that have been deliberately sent to this region of the ocean. Is Good Friday actually good? Well, it all stems from Christianity. You see, the day before Jesus' crucifixion, a party was being held where his disciples gathered. 11 disciples first came, then another disciple, named Judas, confronted some Roman soldiers that were standing nearby. The Romans were after Jesus, and the soldiers offered Judas a bribe. He took the bribe and said that the person that he kisses while he greets them will be Jesus. So that's what he did. After this betrayal, Jesus was taken away by the soldiers and set up at the stake the next day, which was a Friday. It was called good because it was the start of Jesus' victory over death and sin, as well as the celebration of Easter. Easter comes every year, but how exactly did it start? Well, Easter is a pagan celebration of the spring equinox, the time during spring when the day and night are both 12 hours long. This celebration was expanded upon with the advent of Christianity, as the 3 days of Easter mark the days that Jesus was resurrected for after his crucifixion. For the Christians, Easter marks the fulfillment of the Old Testaments and the defeat of death, as well as the hope of salvation. If you're curious, that story's in another Byte of Knowledge. Is Easter named after the island? No, the holiday is named after the pagan goddess of spring and renewal, known as Eoster. The Vikings also had a festival known as Astara to celebrate the spring equinox, and the Germanic name Ostern celebrates the resurrection of Christ. As for the island, it was discovered on Easter Sunday, which is why the lead explorer named it Easter Island. Why are there Easter eggs and Easter bunnies? During the Middle Ages, people would decorate hard-boiled eggs and eat them during the Easter festival. These people had fasted for a long time before this, and the eggs were a good treat. The Easter bunny first came to be as they were associated with the goddess of the spring, Ustra. In folklore, the bunnies were the ones that would hide the colored eggs that the children hunted for, a tradition that has stood the test of time. Today is the most boring day in the world, or at least it was in 1954. Analysts found that on this day, nothing happened. No one notable was born, nothing was built, no one was shot, no cars crashed. Basically, nothing happened. It was also a Sunday, so all the shops were shut back then. Actually, there was one thing that happened. There was an election in Belgium. How interesting.